Hi, I'm wanting to chat to you about various things to just be aware of with your dogs in this lockdown period. We're going to be talking a little bit about separation anxiety. We're also going to be talking about how best to deal with dogs and kids. We're also going to be talking about the fact that you do not need to fit 101 things into this time. It's okay to relax and breathe. And so probably pause me, grab a coffee or a cup of tea and just come and listen for a minute. Sitting out here in the lovely sunshine, enjoying the bird song and sunbathing with the dogs, it's really quite hard to believe that we're on lockdown. I realise that many people are not as blessed as we are to have a garden that they can go and escape to. And I also realise that this lockdown is being a very different experience for everyone. So although we're in it together, the way we experience it is really quite different. There are a few things that I really want to talk to you about to do with how your dogs are going to experience this lockdown period, because again, that's going to be different for everyone's dogs. When we first went into lockdown, my biggest concern was we are going to see huge numbers of dogs really suffering from separation anxiety when we come out of lockdown. And it was a couple of weeks ago I said to my husband, I really don't want to be seeing those cases because it's emotionally so difficult for the dog. They really do panic, and dealing with emotions with dogs is a lot more difficult than just dealing with straight training. And so although that is something that we can help with, it's not something that we really want to. And as behaviourists and trainers and up and down the UK, we don't want to be flooded with dogs who are really not coping after this lockdown period. So there are really quite a few things that you can do to help your dog at this time. First of all, if it is possible to leave your dog at all in the house, either in a different room or in the house and you go out to the garden, or if they're used to being crate trained, so normally if you go out for a couple of hours and they go in the crate, then for a couple of hours pop them in a crate, go to a different room, go outside. I've heard a couple of people recommend go and sit in the car for half an hour, listen to the radio, read a book, have your morning coffee. That was a great recommendation from an American trainer, and also a colleague of mine in Pets in Partnership recommended it, and I think that's a great idea. So whatever it is that means that you can leave your dog for a little bit of time, then do. Really do, because to them they're a pack animal. For a lot of these dogs, all their Christmases have come at once. This is what they always wanted. They always wanted their people around, and so they're part of things. They're not left at home by themselves, and a lot of dogs really don't like that. A lot of them learn to cope, but it isn't really something that they want. So as much as possible, or even if you have a baby gate and you pop the baby gate up and some of the time the dog just can't follow you around the house, because those dogs who suffer with separation anxiety are almost always dogs that will choose to follow you right around the house. The dog of mine that is actually a very stable character, he's 9 now, and he's not imminently about to start with problems, and we work from home anyway. But Shy, my rescue collie, is my permanent shadow. He's about half a pace behind me wherever I go. And so there are times when I deliberately pop him in a room with the other dogs and just shut the baby gate so that he learns that it's okay, he can cope without me. So that's one group of dogs. Another group of dogs that I think will need help are those dogs who are used to having a certain level of peace and quiet. Now, to be honest, life hasn't changed for our dogs a huge amount. We both work from home, and although we're in and out, we are based at home, and so our dogs are just seeing a bit more of us. For a lot of dogs that is not the case, and so particularly for dogs with busy young families, they're used to having 5 days of sort of rest and relaxation as the kids are all at school. And I'm sure many parents are now discovering that teachers really do deserve some form of international award for the work that they do. I suspect your dogs may well agree with that, and so dogs really need a lot more rest than we realise. They could do with about, on average, it's different for every dog, on average about 17 out of every 24 hours they need to be dozing, sleeping, resting. And so if they've got young kids running up and down and screaming or climbing in their beds with them or being busy with them the whole time, then actually those dogs are not going to be coping well. And those dogs need to be able to rest, they need to be able to recharge. And just as you know that your stress levels are probably going to increase if you have no peace, and that's going to make you irritable and that's going to make you more likely to snap, then it's exactly the same for your dogs. So for those dogs, make sure that those dogs have got somewhere quiet they can be. And even if they don't always choose to be in that, again, pop them in there for a few hours in the day, so maybe a couple of hours in the morning, a couple of hours in the afternoon, and so that they have some peace and quiet. Separately to that, those of you with children, I would encourage those of you with young children to make a dog den. So this is not your dog's rest and relaxation area. The children need to understand that they are never, under any circumstances, allowed to go in that area. So it might be your dog's crate, it might be your dog's bed, but they need to make another area, and that other area is happy times together. So it might be that you have some chairs and a blanket and they make a den. It might be that they put a duvet in there or a spare dog bed or something, so that they and the dog can sit in there together. You're going to be in charge of encouraging the dog in there, and it might be that you give your dog a treat every now and then for choosing to be in there with your child. And your child's going to read them a story. I know that teachers up and down the UK are saying, as well as enjoy this time with your children, actually encourage your child to continue reading. And so it may well be that this is something that will help encourage them to read, and it's also a nice, calm, quiet activity that your dog and your child can enjoy each other's company without it getting too giddy. So that's one thing they can do. Another thing is that I'm going to be bringing, over the next coming weeks, I'm going to be bringing a whole load of tricks that I can teach you to teach your dog. But it may well be that your child wants to take up the trick challenge. So that's another thing that they can do that's a really constructive, positive thing that they can do together. People have asked me, I've had various people ask me, what is a good way of spending the day with my dog through this lockdown period? So if I explain some of the things that we're doing in our household, and again, our household's very different. We don't have young children, so it's a calm, quiet, peaceful household. I'm not by myself, so I'm not isolated, and it's just sort of the 2 adults, 4 dogs. We're quite calm. It's very similar to how it normally is. But I have changed what we do, partly because we're not able to get out for the same walks that we used to be able to. And so I've split their food into 3 meals a day. Breakfast, I'm not a morning person. So breakfast, by the time I've given our Great Dane all his various tablets to keep his heart going and all sorts of other stuff, he just needs to have his breakfast with it. And so they just have breakfast. It's in a bowl. It's a meal that they know they've had. Lunchtime, I tend to scatter feed them, and so they can mooch about and have that. If you've got some interactive toys like snuffle mats, that kind of thing, Kongs, or if you have any of the cow horns and you want to put the dinner in there, great. That's their kind of middle meal, that is their interactive doing things meal. And then it may well be in the evening that you then choose to have that as training time. So a reasonable amount of their dinner in the evening, you're going to do bits of training. And I would always say keep some of that food and make sure you put it in the bowl, because most dogs don't really view food as a meal unless it goes in the dog bowl. So make sure that at least some of it goes in the bowl so that they know that's dinner and they'll stop nagging you for food. So separately to that, absolutely make the most of your 1 walk a day. And it may well be that your walk perhaps comes in the morning, and your training comes in the evening, or maybe your training and your snuffle mat and various other things come in the morning, and then you take them for a walk in the evening. Whichever is best for you and your dog, and also your area, because I realise, again, some people live in the middle of nowhere. It's really easy to go on a walk and keep your socialisation, your social isolation going. That's great. I realise for some of you that's really hard, and you live in an area with a lot of people, or you live in an area that is a beauty spot and everybody's flocking to your area, and I realise that that's tricky as well. So look at, is your dog getting enough rest? Is your dog having things to keep their nose going? Because the nose is going to use up a lot of their brain power, and rather than worry about physically tiring them out, mentally tire them out and give them something helpful and constructive to think about. Thirdly, are there things that you can be doing that is a useful way of spending your time? So that will be your training times that you do with your dog. Now I realise some of you are just trying to keep your head above water, and that you're going to be juggling a whole load of kids and dogs and this, that and the other. I realise others of you have sort of reached this point and thought, oh, I must be making the most of this opportunity. So you are probably the people who are also deciding whether or not to learn a foreign language, and are busily doing your exercises in the morning with the TV on, and a whole range of other things that, you know, you're reading 100 books a week. I have to say, for the first 2 weeks of this lockdown, I intermittently just felt exhausted. And it was because my mind was spinning with, I suddenly have no income, I'm self-employed, and that really doesn't help matters. So how's that all going to work? Mixed with, there's all this time, all these things that I meant to do for ages, training the dogs, doing these videos that I'm doing for you guys now. Also, I'm a musician, so I've got a reasonable amount of music recording that I want to do as well. I trained and qualified as a musician before then, retraining nearly 20 years ago in dog training and behaviour, but I still like to do a bit of music every now and then. And so I had all this great list of things I should do, and found that really quite tiring. My Hoover has sat in the kitchen looking at me for 2 or 3 days before I actually got round to doing any hoovering of the house. And it was the, oh yes, I must do something with that. Even if we generally seem quite calm, and to be honest, in the grand scheme of things we are, actually I could tell I'm not, because I was finding I was getting really tired because my brain was being so busy with all these things I should be doing. My dogs are going to pick up on that. Dogs are so intuitive and in tune with us, and they understand when things are not right, often before we do. So even with my mild level of tiredness, they're going to pick up on that. If you are having a stressful household, your dogs are going to pick up on that. They are going to be stressed, and you need to give them somewhere that is calm and quiet away from all of that. So make the most of this time, but be kind to yourself, be kind to your dogs, and make sure that you're all doing the best to relax and find positives through this situation. I'm going to be doing loads and loads of training things, but my biggest thing is take time to relax, and we'll all come out this okay. Stay home, stay safe, and I will see you soon. Bye bye.